Hi everyone, it's Chris. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to share about 30 jazz fusion songs that I think are worthy of your time. And these are the more guitar orientated songs. So there's no Weather Report, Passport, Brecker Brothers, Herbie Hancock, two kind of horns and keyboard for this particular list. So much more guitar orientated. Now, this genre is not for everyone. So I guess you're here because you're interested, but it's not for everyone. And sometimes I blow a bit hot and cold with it, if I'm really honest. So sometimes I think, wow, this is just amazing musicianship. And other times I think this is just self-indulgent rubbish. But anyway, see what you think when you listen to a few of these recommendations. So I think jazz fusion started with Bitches Brew, In a Silent Way, Jack Johnson with Miles Davis, and he was employing a different kind of musician in his band round about this kind of time, the late 60s, early 70s. We had young drummers like Tony Williams and Billy Cobham, and guitarists like John McLaughlin. And John McLaughlin and Billy Cobham also feature on The Inner Mounting Flame, the debut from the Mahavishnu Orchestra. And the first recommendation of this batch today is The Noonwood Race. The Noonwood Race, which is the third track on side one, which is absolutely classic Mahavishnu Orchestra. Now, playing alongside John McLaughlin was Billy Cobham. Billy Cobham did a whole host of solo albums. This is his debut, which features Jan Hammer, who played alongside him in the Mahavishnu Orchestra, and also a very young Tommy Bolin, who went on to the James Gang, Deep Purple, and sadly lost his life to drugs in '76. But there's a couple of really good guitar moments on here. Stratus, which has been covered and sampled by numerous people. Torian Matador, which is good, but the one that I'm choosing with a fantastic interplay between Jan Hammer and Tommy Bolin on guitar is the opening song, Quadrant 4. If you've not heard it, fantastic. Now, Tommy Bolin was one of those people that could play anything, blues, rock, kind of funky stuff, and of course jazz fusion. And he did an album called Teaser, and these are 3 CDs that take the recordings of around about that time and just share kind of like extended versions, rehearsal versions, and so on. There's one song that didn't make the album Teaser because it was seen that there was too many instrumentals already on it, and it's a brilliant jazz fusion song. It's called Crazed Fandango, or Smooth Fandango, or Fandango, depending on which CD you have. It's basically the same song. It varies between about 5 and 8 minutes. The guitar work on it is just sensational. Crazed Fandango, Tommy Bolin. Now, Tommy Bolin also played alongside another jazz fusion drummer, that's Alphonse Mouzon. How cool is that fella? And he plays on about 5 songs on here, but one song I will recommend that Tommy plays on is Nitroglycerin. Fantastic. Larry Coryell, there he is, looking very cool there. Also played in 11th House alongside Larry Coryell. This is their second album called Level 1. Their first album was called Introducing the 11th House. This is my favourite of the 2 albums, and check out for guitar work. I mean, Audi Meola is fantastic. Larry Coryell, fantastic guitar player, but Some Greasy Stuff from Level 1 by the 11th House, tremendous stuff. Now, Larry Coryell also did some solo albums. This is just one of them, which is very good, although it does feature one song with a too long a drum solo on it. But the opening song, which is a Gabor Szabo song, it's called Gypsy Queen, and the guitar work on that is incredible. And that song was also covered by Santana, not on this album, but on an earlier album. And this is probably Santana's jazziest album. This is Caravanserai from about 73, I think it is. Features obviously Carlos Santana, but playing alongside him a very young Neil Schon, who went on to play with Journey. Check out Song of the Wind on that album, or Every Step of the Way. Fantastic jazz fusion guitar. Now, Neil Schon, really talented player, took himself and Greg Rowley off from Santana and formed a band called Journey. Obviously they went on to big success, but this first album is very different to 80s Journey, and you want to check out a song called Kahutek, which is the closing song on side 1. Real jazz fusion song, great stuff. Now, all of the Santana band played as backing to Louis Gasca on this album, For Those Who Chant. This is a 70s album. Louis Gasca is a trumpet player, and this is basically Santana with trumpets. But there's one song, closes side 2, called Little Mama, which has got some great guitar work on it. So Little Mama from Louis Gasca, really worth checking out. This album also features Carlos Santana, and of course Mahavishnu Orchestra's John McLaughlin. This has also got Billy Cobham on it, I think. Yes, it has. And Jan Hammer. Again, it's another album I think, oh, musicianship, amazing. Oh, no, just musical masturbation. You know, I'm really just not really sure where I sit sometimes. But they do a version of John Coltrane's A Love Supreme on here, which is really worth listening to. Now, the drummer on that album was Mingo Lewis. Mingo Lewis did a solo album called Flight Never Ending, the title track of which is absolutely fantastic. And on that Lewis Gasker album, the drummer was Lenny White, and this is his first solo album, Venusian Summer. And this has got a song that closes the album, which is just brilliant if you love guitar. It's called Prince of the Sea. And it has Larry Coryell on it, and it also has Al Di Meola. And those two very rarely play together. And Al Di Meola made his name in this band, Return to Forever, one of the big kind of fusion bands, and played with Lenny White, with Chick Corea, and with Stanley Clarke. And one song I'm going to recommend from here, if you like guitar, is Song to the Pharaoh Kings, that closes the album. Brilliant. Al Di Meola did a couple of solo albums. This is quite a few albums. This is Elegant Gypsy. The Elegant Gypsy Suite is very good, but the song I'm going to choose as my recommendation is the opening track, which is called Flight Over Rio, which is just brilliant guitar. Now, Tony Williams played with Miles Davis, I think on A Silent Way, and he produced a number of solo albums. This is his band, Tony Williams Lifetime, or this is the new Tony Williams Lifetime, so there was a version of it that came before that. Really good band, and it has Alan Holdsworth on it. And there's a number of really good guitar moments on it, but the track I'm going to choose from here for a recommendation closes side one, has some wonderful guitar from Alan Holdsworth, who I think generally was better in a band than going solo. But Proto-Cosmos is a fantastic song. Proto-Cosmos from the new Tony Williams Lifetime. Alan Holdsworth also plays on a version of Soft Machine. This is Bundles on EMI Records. Tremendous album. Has a profile #1 that starts the album, is Alan Holdsworth at his best. He also appears on this album by Gong. So Gong reinvented themselves from a hippie trippy band to a much more fusion band. And Night Illusion from this album features some wonderful guitar from Alan Holdsworth, who also turns up on this album by violinist Jean-Luc Ponty. I think this is possibly his best album, Enigmatic Ocean. It's a really, really good album. It has Steve Smith on it, who went to play with Journey, really good jazz drummer. Daryl Stuermer, who was the kind of touring guitarist with Genesis for a long time. And of course, Alan Holdsworth. Nostalgic Lady is my pick for a guitar moment. Now, Daryl Stuermer played with Genesis, and one particular member of Genesis had a side project, Phil Collins. This is Brand X, their debut, Unorthodox Behaviour. I love that cover, it's a great cover. And the song that opens the album, Nuclear Burn, is my recommendations from that. Now, Tony Williams did, as I said, a couple of band things, Tony Williams Lifetime, the new Tony Williams Lifetime, and also a solo albums under the name just of Tony Williams. This is The Joy of Flying, and this features Jan Hammer, for example, Stanley Clarke, Herbie Hancock. It also features Ronnie Montrose of Montrose fame, which was this band. And Ronnie Montrose certainly could mix it up. And there's a song on here, which is a live song called Open Fire, which is a really kind of good rocky jazz fusion song. That also is the title track from Ronnie Montrose's solo album. So if you've not heard Open Fire by Ronnie Montrose, that's really worth listening to if you like your kind of fusion guitar. And another guy who could play lots of genres, a wonderful guitarist, had played with Deep Purple, has played with Deep Purple, left that not that long ago, but also played with Dixie Dregs and gone solo as well, is Steve Morse. This is the Steve Morse band's debut from probably mid-80s, I would have said 84, 5 kind of time. The opening track, Cruise Missile. Wow, that's really astonishing guitar. And he was a guy that could play lots of genres, and another one who could play lots of genres was Gary Moore. He could play blues, he could play rock, he could play jazz fusion. He appears on Colosseum's 2, 3 of their albums, Electric Savage, War Dance, and the first one, which has just gone out of my head, but the closing track on here called Last Exit. It's about 3 minutes or so long, so it's not as long as lots of jazz fusion songs. The guitar work on that is sensational from Gary Moore. Now, one particular fella who played a lot of sessions, a lot of fusion stuff, and was asked by CBS to produce his own solo album. This has got some commercial stuff on it, as well as having some really key jazz fusion players alongside him. So, for example, Ginny Hazlitt plays on here, and Narada Michael Warden plays on here. This is Ray Gomez, who you may not have heard of. This is his album, I think this is from 1980. It's called Volume. It's on CBS Records. It was CBS's attempt to make him a little bit more kind of commercial, and there are some commercial songs. He does a version on here of Summer in the City. Now that came out as a 45. The B-side of that was absolutely brilliant fusion song, and it's on here as well. It's called West Side Boogie. So if you've not heard that, Ray Gomez, West Side Boogie, tremendous stuff. Another guy who could play lots of genres. Was he a fusion player? For a time, possibly. He was less of a fusion player and just more of an incredibly versatile musician. And that's, of course, Jeff Beck. Two kind of classic fusion albums he brought out. He brought out lots of albums that possibly could be put into this genre, but these I think are the best two. Blow by Blow, which has got my recommendation on it of Freeway Jam, and this album Wired, which is fantastic as well. And this also features Jan Hammer, Michael Narado, Walden, so some really good fusion players. And Jan Hammer appears on this album, the ECN album, which I love the cover of that. Looks a bit like the logo for Microsoft Word, but I do love the cover. Very, very ECN. This is John Abercrombie on guitar. The album is called Timeless. And the song I'm choosing is 12 minutes long, and it's really gentle, but the guitar work is just beautiful. And that's called Timeless, the title track. So Jan Hammer, Jacques de Jeanette on drums, and John Abercrombie on guitar. Fantastic stuff. And at that kind of much more gentler end, we had Pat Metheny. This is Pat Metheny Group, their debut, which is a really good guitar album. There's also great keyboards from Lars May on it as well. Lyle Mays, which is really, really good. But the song I'm going to choose on here is about 8 minutes long. It's called Phase Dance, and wonderful guitar from Pat Metheny on that. Phase Dance. Stanley Clarke has played on so many fusion albums, it's ridiculous. He also had a really good solo career. This is one of my favourite albums by him. It's probably his third, fourth album, I think. It's called Journey to Love. It does feature Jeff Beck. He plays the solo on Journey to Love, the title track. But the track that I really love on here is it's the track that closes the album. It's called Concerto for Jazz Rock Orchestra. It's about 15 minutes long, has a wonderful guitar solo at the end. And that solo is played by the very, very talented David Sanchez, who I think has toured with Bruce Springsteen, possibly. But this is David Sanchez and Tone. Great album. Side 2 is really good if you like kind of really stretching out something. It's called Transformation, the Speed of Love, and that's the title track from the album. But the song I'm going to choose for a guitar moment, because this guy can seriously play, as well as play keyboards and everything else. His guitar work is sensational. It's called Sky Church Hymn Number 9, and that's David Sanchez. Now, other guitarists, maybe from different parts of Europe, are Jukka Talonen, who I think is Finnish. This is his debut album. It's on Sonnet Records, at least in the UK it came out on Sonnet Records. There's a great track on here called Ramblin', which really shows off his very, very Italian guitar playing. He was a brilliant musician, as was this fella, Janne Schäfer, who was a Swedish guitar player, probably more famous for being one of ABBA's backing band on a variety of songs over the years. But this is his debut. This is the English version of his debut. The Swedish version is a different cover, and it's got Swedish songs titles on it. I think slightly different songs as well. So this is called The Chinese. And the song I'm going to choose, which has got beautiful wah-wah guitar on it, is called Harvest Machine by Janne Schäfer. And then a couple to finish. Got to include this band, although they're not renowned for their guitars. They do have in the band at this point, as a permanent member of the band now, Larry Carlton, who was very capable of playing some great guitar. In fact, his live album, live in Japan I think it's called 335, and he does a song called Pointed Up, which is just, he really lets loose. But this is really funky, and his guitar playing is just so beautiful. The track I'm choosing opens this album. It's called Spiral. Absolutely beautiful track. Love it. It's so funky. Got such a good... Crusaders were a great band, and Larry Colton really added to that. And I'm going to finish with a guy who kind of did a whole variety of different stuff over the year. I don't know if this is his best fusion album. It's probably right up there. Hot Rats by Frank Zappa. And this, of course, has got Peaches on Regalia on it and Willie the Pimp. Both are really, especially Willie the Pimp, which is a great jazz fusion song. So there you go, 30 recommendations of some tunes that I think you should listen to if you want to find out a bit more about the guitar orientated end of jazz fusion. Thanks everybody, and we'll catch up soon with another video. Cheers.